Chapter 280. I'm here to take revenge. Surprisingly, it's the forest of demonic beasts. A trace of emotion flashed in little Gold's eyes. I still remember when I was here for a year to realize my sword and realize the heaven-breaking style. A trace of remembrance flashed in Kang Chon's eyes. The first time he came to the forest of demonic beasts, he was only a small cultivator at the foundation establishment stage, but now he was already a supreme powerhouse at the 7th level of the Yuanying stage. At least in this great Tang country, with his cultivation, he was indeed considered an absolute powerhouse. Brother, remember when we captured the water spirit fruit at the Bian pool in front of us? Little Gold said. Yes, Kang Chon nodded. Brother, are we going to visit Demon Yuan City? That cloud water rhythm seemed to be quite interested in you back then. Xiao Jin heatedly laughed. Pah! When Kang Chon heard this, he was immediately so angry that he gave him a chestnut. However, little Jin was right. That cloud water ballad did have a crush on Kang Chon back then. It was a pity that the falling flowers were intentional, but the flowing water was heartless. I wondered how those twin sisters were doing after all these years. Thinking for a moment, Kang Chon decided that he should still make a trip to Demon Yuan City, as he thought of something. Zhonglai, I wonder if you still remember me, Kang Chon. A morose cold light shot out from Kang Chon's eyes as he muttered under his breath. Back then, when he was traveling from Demon Yuan City to the imperial capital, he suffered the interception and killing of a Zhong family's Yuanying stage powerhouse, a revenge he had not yet forgotten. He just didn't know if the Zhong family still remembered it. Demon Yuan City, near the edge of the forest of demonic beasts, was a very important geographical location. Many cultivators who came to the forest of demonic beasts to practice would resupply in this city, which made this city exceptionally prosperous. Inside the city, there was an endless stream of traffic, people coming and going, cultivators of all levels, a prosperous and lively scene of a large city. Brother, are we going directly to the Zhong family to take revenge? Of course. Finish taking revenge earlier and go to the imperial capital to see Grandpa earlier. Amidst the crowd, Kang Chon and Xiao Jin lazily wandered around, following the route in their memories. They traveled straight towards the Zhong family. As one of the 4 great families of Demon Yuan City, the Zhong family's mansion was very prominent. Occupying 100 miles of land in a radius, it could almost be said to be a city within a city. In front of the Zhong mansion's main gate, there were 2 stone lions staring angrily with their heads held high, appearing to have an extraordinary aura. What are you looking at? The Zhong mansion's important land is not to be visited. Quickly get out of the way, next to the stone lions. There were more than a dozen ferocious Zhong family guards, shouting coldly at the passing crowd, arrogantly arrogant. The people passing by were too angry to say anything. They all left with their heads down, out of sight, out of mind, for fear of angering these dog-fighting guards. Third brother, joining the Zhong family is good. Now we can strut around in Demon Yuan City. Anyone who sees us has to be courteous. A short guard at the entrance of the Zhong mansion said, with a face full of complacency. He had only joined the Zhong family a short while ago, taking over this task of looking after the door. That's for sure. Our Zhong family is one of the 4 great families of Demon Yuan City. Even people from the other 3 worlds have to retreat when they see our Zhong family's children. The guard known as Third Brother proudly said. In Demon Yuan City, the Zhong family's children had always been arrogant and domineering. And other than the children of the other 3 great world families, everyone else dared to be angry. Especially 3 years ago, after the Zhong family's newest family member, Zhong Tianhao, came to power, the arrogance of the Zhong family's children was fueled even more because of his prideful temperament. Third brother, look at those 2 guys. They seem to have been staring at our Zhong family. The short guard suddenly said, and pointed away with his right hand. In the direction he was pointing, there was a purple-robed youth and a gold-robed teenager looking at the Zhong mansion side by side. And they were none other than Kang Chon and Xiao Jin, who had rushed all the way here. Good guts. How dare you spy on our Zhong mansion? Don't want to live, brothers. Arrest them for third master. That third brother sniffed and looked over. A hint of sternness flashed in his eyes as he said grimly, "Yes, yes, third brother." Immediately, more than a dozen guards surged out and surrounded Kang Chon and Little Gold, each of them unsheathing the swords in their hands, emitting a sinister light. These guards were surprisingly a single Foundation establishment stage powerhouse. As one of the four great families of Demon Yuan City, the Zhong family was indeed extraordinary. Even the guards watching the door were all Foundation establishment stage cultivators. One must know that in Kang Chon's old home, Heavy Iron City, a Foundation establishment stage cultivator was already considered an expert. And no matter which family he was in, he would be an elder-like existence, whereas here he was just a gatekeeper's guard. However, for today's Kang Chon and Xiao Jin, a dozen or so Foundation establishment stage cultivators was simply a piece of cake. They didn't care at all and looked very relaxed between their expressions. Little Gold even laughed to himself and said, "Brother, we are surrounded by a group of experts. It looks like we are going to die here today." "Ha." Kang Chon smiled, amused by Xiao Jin's quirkiness, looking at these Foundation establishment stage guards in front of him. He felt some emotion in his heart. Back then, he had failed to establish the Foundation 9 times. And he had tried everything in order to establish the Foundation. And now, he has been promoted to Yuanying stage. A mere Foundation establishment stage cultivator is not even worthy to give him shoes. "Say, where are you scouts from? Spying on my Zhong mansion? What exactly are your intentions? What's the point of talking nonsense with them? Arrest them first. When we get to our Zhong mansion's prison, even if he's mute, he'll have to obediently tell us his ancestors." A few guards interrupted Kang Chon's sentiments. They laughed and surrounded him, actually not putting Kang Chon and Xiao Jin in their eyes at all. The third brother also walked up. His greedy eyes swept over the bloody blade behind Kang Chon's back, and said grimly, "Behave yourself and surrender, or your fate will be even worse." What kind of cultivation was Kang Chon? Although this man's eyes were well hidden, he still found the other party's gaze. Greedily glancing at the blood knife behind him, its significance was self-evident. He was originally curious that the arrogance and dominance of this Zhong mansion's guard was too much. But now it seemed that this guy was not an idiot. At least he could see that the blood knife behind him was a treasure knife, and got up the idea of seizing the treasure. "Brother, this guy is quite knowledgeable." This guard's mind, naturally, could not escape Xiao Jin's eyes as he said with a smile. It had to be said that this guy was indeed very knowledgeable. The blood knife behind Kang Chon was more than just a treasure knife. It was a king's grade treasure weapon given to him by his eldest senior brother. Even if a harmonization stage powerhouse saw it, he would want to snatch it. The guard who was called third brother frowned at what he said. These two people in front of him a little too relaxed, didn't they? Could it be that he had kicked the iron plate this time? No, this Demon Yuan City. In this Demon Yuan City, apart from the other 3 great families, what other forces would dare to call themselves ironclad in front of the Zhong mansion? Thinking of this third brother eyes more confident. He looked at the sky. The Senran smiled, "Kid, behind the back of the weapon handed over, and then go with me to the Zhong house to make a record. As long as the verification that you are not a scout, we will let you leave." As expected, it was for the blood sword, and this Zhong clan guard was to subdued, immediately exposing his mind. Of course, this might also be because they were used to being arrogant in Demon Yuan City and didn't put others in their eyes at all. Little Jin felt a little unable to stand it anymore. He clenched his fists and cackled as he grunted out of his mouth, "Brother, these annoying fellows will be left to me." Kang Chon nodded. For these foundation establishment stage guards, he indeed had no interest in making a move. Seek death. That third brother was furious at his words, and immediately waved his hand, coldly shouting, "Brothers on, give it to third master." Before he could finish his words, a pair of huge fists had already blasted up. In the end, the second half of his sentence never had a chance to be said again, because he had already gone to chat with King of Yan. The surrounding dozen of guards were immediately shocked as they stopped their rush, each looking at the fallen third brother with shocked faces. This third brother was the strongest one among them, yet he was killed by this teenager in front of him with a single punch. Even if they were stupid, they knew that they had kicked the iron plate this time. Waste. Xiaojin spat a mouthful of spit at the corpse on the ground. Then his eyes looked at the surrounding dozen of guards with disdain, and coldly said, "A bunch of wastes, killing all of you with dirtying Master Monkey's fist. Hurry back to notify Zhongli's old man, and let him wash his neck and come out to die." However, this group of guards did not move a muscle. They were still immersed in shock, their faces full of stupefaction. Still not quick enough to roll. Xiaojin saw this and shouted. The group of guards instantly reacted, spreading their feet and running away, grayly entering the Zhong mansion and hurriedly closing the gate. People were coming and going above the street. At this time, there was a human life, and it was at the entrance of the Zhong mansion, instantly attracting a lot of people to stop and watch. And there were continuous discussions. Who are those two young men? How dare they kill the Zhong family guards in front of the Zhong mansion? Do they not want to live? Didn't you see that young man kill Zhong San with a single punch just now? His strength is extraordinary. He obviously came prepared. Why does that purple-robed youth look somewhat familiar to me? As if I've seen him somewhere. While the crowd was discussing, within the Zhong mansion, those guards immediately went to report with their superiors after hiding inside. With their status as guards, they were not yet qualified to meet the Zhong family head, so they could only notify the chief of guards. Just now, that person said to let Zhonglai come out to die. Does our Zhong family have this person? A guard who looked like he was new to the Zhong family not long ago asked. Zhonglai, isn't the former head of our Zhong family called Zhonglai? An old guard was stunned at his words. Instantly, a dozen of guards looked at each other. They all saw the horror in each other's eyes. They knew that this time, they were afraid that the matter was beyond their imagination. Those two young men were definitely not simple. Hurry to inform the boss. The dozen also guards instantly knew the seriousness of the matter and hurriedly quickened their pace, preparing to go inform the chief of guards. Although Zhonglai had already stepped down as the family head for more than 3 years, His Majesty was still there. And when the head guard learnt of this news, he knew that the matter was not trivial, and immediately travelled to the Zhong mansion's lobby to report to the current family head, Zhong Tianhao, who was also Zhongli's son. Two young men, Zhong Tianhao listened to the head guard's report, his brows deep in thought. Then he coldly laughed. Daring to let my father go out to die? Humph, I'd like to see where the two brats came from to seek death. Saying so, he led the chief of guards and a dozen also guards, and walked towards the outside of the Zhong mansion's main gate with an angsty face. At this moment, outside the Zhong mansion, many people had already gathered, all of them coming to watch the action. From the moment Xiaojin had annihilated Zhong San with a single punch, they knew that these two had come to find trouble with the Zhong family. With regards to the Zhong family, the cultivators in Demon Yuan City were all very disgusted, and at this moment, seeing that someone was looking for trouble with the Zhong family, they were happy to come and watch the fun. Of course, there were also people who kindly advised Kang Chan and Xiao Jin to hurry up and leave. After all, the Zhong family's power was deeply rooted in people's hearts, and there were very few people in Demon Yuan City who dared to offend the Zhong family. Even the other three great families were very jealous of the Zhong family and didn't dare to tear their faces off with the Zhong family. For these well-wishers, Kang Chan and Xiaojin looked a little speechless. But people were being kind, so they couldn't say much, and in the end, they had no choice but to close their eyes and ignore the crowd. Alas, I'm afraid that they are two fledglings who have just stepped out of their clans. They are young and impetuous. I hope that the Zhong clan will be jealous of the clan behind them and let them live. Seeing Kang Chan and Xiaojin ignoring their persuasion, an old man immediately left with a sigh. Boom! Right at this moment, the gates of the Zhong mansion opened, and a dozen people came in great numbers, led by a brocade-clothed young man with a cold face and eyes that flickered with arrogance.